Yeah.
Let's talk about Oregon and Iowa. This is a suddenly very intriguing game in the Big Ten. Like, I don't think coming into the year we all would have circled this one, but with the way that Iowa is playing, I've been ranking them in the AP poll the last couple of weeks. The CFP had them in their top 25. Kinnick is a really, really hard place to play. They played Indiana better than anybody else did, and that was at home as well. And it's an Oregon team that we're just not sure about. They have one win over a team that's 500 or better. It was Northwestern. The win against Penn State was a really good one at the time, and then it disintegrated very quickly. And they had a shaky win over Wisconsin, a team that a lot of other teams have had no problem blowing out. So it comes at a really interesting time, both teams coming off a bye, but Oregon really needing this. They were lower in the CFP rankings than they probably would have liked. I think they've got something to prove in themselves, offensively and defensively. And then you've got an Iowa team that is much better at finding the end zone than they have been in recent years. It's not necessarily always through the air, by the way, but Mark Gronowski's really tough. He's a tough runner. He's endeared himself to this fan base. They've got, I think, the best returner in college football. They've got a solid defense, as they always do. They're just going to be a tough out. And I think that this is suddenly one of the most impactful games in the Big Ten this season.
The city is going crazy, by the way, Nicole. I get it, with the sirens and whatnot. Here's my thing about this Iowa team that I think is super intriguing. You brought it up on one of the Saturday Rushing the Field shows that Iowa had a top 50 scoring offense. And I was like, okay, low bar. But then you start to dig into it. And I think a lot of the scoring offense metrics, they include defensive scores and special teams, right? And so like that's the story of them. And then you start to look at Iowa's offense as a whole, and their total offense numbers are still awful. But they have figured out a way to play a game where they set themselves up with field position. They do it through their defense, taking the football away or getting stops. And now you're punting to them backed up and they get the ball around midfield. They do it through the return game. You mentioned their returner, who has been phenomenal. And it's something that Iowa does every year. And it doesn't feel like it's a fluky thing. It doesn't feel like we're going to hope that we can come up with this type of game plan. No. It's what they do. And when they get that football on a short field, to your point, they run it well enough and they can hit you with some passes over the middle, out to the flats that can keep them on schedule. And that's been a huge difference for them, where it does feel like they're very dangerous playing that type of game. Now, Oregon on the other side, very talented, very good team. When things are clicking on all cylinders, you're like, man, this is one of the best teams in the country. When they're not, you're like, is that offensive line as good as I thought they were? You know, like is their offensive scheme allowing them to really take advantage of defenses the way that I thought they could? And by the way, we know what Iowa's going to do on defense, and we know that Oregon's going to have it schemed up. It's just, can they execute it against a team that it's really hard to execute against? You look at their defensive line, they've got aliens. Like, do the aliens always show up to play? Right. And so like there are a lot of questions about a really well-constructed roster and a great coaching staff in terms of getting it done on game day. So I'm super intrigued by this game. I think it's going to be a really exciting one. I've got some thoughts on an outcome, but I don't want to spoil any underdog picks, so I'll just leave it at that.
I will also mention this is the beginning of a really important stretch here for Oregon. We talked about this in terms of the CFP and all they have ahead of them. So they go at Iowa, home versus Minnesota, home versus USC, and then at Washington. That's challenging. There are three teams in there that are ranked in the current CFP rankings. They're going to need to win two of those three. Then they'll have the resume that justifies it. But these are going to be really challenging games down the stretch, and they're all going to be really big games for their opponents, right? Like this is the game for USC down the stretch, the game for Washington, who, by the way, has had some luck against Oregon with Dan Lanning in that rivalry game in this season. So this is pivotal. This is really, really important for both of these teams. Could be the game of the day and the most impactful game of the weekend.